Question 22, we completed the past few already, and this is set November 25, paper 1, HL, should apply to SL2. Actually, this is topic 7, so not SL, only HL, and we have topic 7, yep. Do check out all the videos on my channel and the playlists. More videos coming soon, and we'll finish this entire paper. And so stick around and drop a like and subscribe if this helps you. It shows a user interacting with a paper version of a car interface manipulated by a person acting as a computer. Which strategy for user-centered design does this illustrate? So immediately I'm thinking this is participatory design, right? That is the definition for participatory design. It's, I believe, something about using a paper version of a product to sort of walk through how someone would use this product. So let's write the definition of this down, and I'll walk you through why it's not these answers. So let's just see what method of extremes that is. I'm pretty sure most of you would not pick that. Field research, maybe some of you might be tricked into that. Scenarios, also possible, but let's walk through why it's participatory design and why not these three. So participatory design, let me maybe use this space up here, and let's write a definition, right? Participatory design is when we have users who represent our target market, right? Target market, and this is always in the early design and development stage. Represent target market, or sort of brought in to perform a task with this paper version of the product, right? Perform tasks, and that is by interacting. So another point. Sorry, let me use a different pen color, right? Red. Just want to highlight each point, and then we have, so to perform tasks, and this should be realistic tasks, right? So perform realistic tasks. And guys, this helps with paper 2. That's why I'm walking through all the key terms. So definitely stick around. Otherwise, you can just skip through and check the answers, but I don't think that would help you as much. Okay, so perform realistic tasks by interacting, right? They have to interact with this paper version, with a paper version of the product. And usually it's a interface, right? And so you can have a cardboard model, you can have this like 2D paper model, and you're sort of interacting with an interface, right? You can see that here. He's like pretending like he's pressing buttons, like he's holding the steering wheel, as if he has this field of view, right? And so what we should say is, with a paper version of the user product interface, hope you guys understand what that means. Otherwise, do search it up. User product interface. That is basically whenever a user has to touch any buttons or has to see something. So everything that the user interacts with is called the user product interface. And beyond that, this is a user product interface manipulated by a person, right? And we see this person here. This is probably one of the designers, right? Manipulated by a person who sort of acts as if they were the software or the computer. So when he clicks a button, this lady or man is going to bring the next paper, and stick that on this interface, and then he's going to interact with that. The user is going to interact with that next page. So we're going to have a login page, right? Sorry, this is a car, but let's just pretend it's some kind of software, right? Login or connect to Bluetooth, and then we might have pair device, right? Or we'll have, uh, you know, uh, increase volume, and you have to click some buttons. And so that's what you'll see. So it's manipulated by a person who acts as a computer, acts as a computer. So sorry guys, this is a long definition, but you need to remember all these parts, right? Or just generally grasp what it means, right? So let's highlight. User represents target market, so that is obvious, and perform realistic tasks by interacting with a paper version of user product interface. And that is manipulated by a person who acts as a computer. So that is important. And then the next part is that person should not be able to tell the user what to do, right? So let's say supervisor or person does not explain how the interface works, right? Because we want proper feedback. We want to understand how the user behaves and how they interact with our interface so that we can improve the design and build a better, you know, computer version when we actually build it. And so the supervisor does not explain how the interface actually works. Interface works, right? And that is also important. Does not explain how the interface works. I guess the key point here is just does not explain, right? Okay, next is method of extremes. So this is the one option I think none of you would be choosing, or I hope none of you would be choosing. And so method of extremes is part of user-centered design, right? It's essentially where we want to find people in the lowest percentile and the highest percentile. And so what we would say is it's a sampling method, right? And sampling just means finding potential users or maybe respondents to your survey or users to interact with your product like this when you're conducting research, essentially. Sampling for research, right? Is so it's a sampling method. uh, Laptop. Okay, sampling method where we pick users, uh, picking users uh, that represent the extremes of the population, right? And it can be in terms of anything. It can be in terms of age, it can be in terms of height, it can be in terms of let's say English speaking ability or the like ability to understand the language here, or finger size. Let's say we're trying to see how big our button should be, you know? So literally anything. So picking users that represent the extremes of a population, uh, and that would typically be, let's say, let's bring another arrow. Typically 2.5 percentile and the 97.5 percentile. So we want the top 2.5 percentiles. Top 2.5 and bottom 2.5, right? Okay. And what we do with that is then test and sorry, first you design it, right? You design it for those percentiles, design, test, and ensure it is suitable, right? And you get feedback, obviously. When you test, you get feedback or data. Okay, and then next is field research. That is just our secondary. That's like first-hand observation, which is similar to what we see here, right? But you have to deeply understand what is the difference between these answers. So field research is our first-hand observation of a user who's carrying out a certain task, right? Of user experience uh in their environment, right? In their user environment and doing their task, their intended task that we're trying to, improve when we're designing a product. Next is, hopefully that made sense, right? Next is scenarios. So we have that. And I think you guys can sort of define this by yourself, right? Try defining what a scenario is, right? It's part of your imagination, right? You imagine a sequence of events or actions that you have to take. Imagine a sequence, and that's sort of what's happening here, right? You have a sequence of actions, but again, that's your you have to deeply understand that this is participatory design. We have a helper, we have a paper model, and a scenario is sort of more specific in terms of imagine a sequence of events uh, of a persona. And you guys should definitely know what a persona is, a user persona. So let's say our primary persona is someone who is 6 feet tall, age 17 or age 25. They drive a car. They are inexperienced. Let's say they have been driving a car for maybe 2 years. And you sort of build out these details, right? And that's what a persona is. It's a fictional character that you build of your user. So what we say here is imagine a sequence of events that uh or that a persona would experience in their daily life. So sequence of events in daily life of persona, right? And your persona is based on a bunch of assumptions, right? Based on we're eating up into the next one. Based on series of assumptions. Very clearly here it's just about participatory design, or at least that's the best way to describe this, right? It's the exact definition that I explained here. So definitely remember that. And next we'll move on to, we'll move on to question 23. We have what is the most important consideration when conducting a use case? Now, so scenario and use case are kind of interlinked, right? Scenario is when we're trying to define our problem and we're trying to look at certain things or characteristics of our persona. What do they experience in their daily life, right? Experiences or problems, right? This is when we're defining our problem and sort of exploring who our user is. Then we have a use case. And use case is when we have, it's a similar definition, right? But here's how I would define it. It's a series of, again, or series or sequence of actions this time, or interactions. Sequence and I think we see it right here, right? Sequence of